There are actually two myths here. The first one, only the increment is presented in the sprint review. The second is, the sprint review is necessary to release the increment. The truth is, the objective of the sprint review is different. The increment and the sprint review are not as closely related as some might believe. Before we start, please have a look at my website. There you'll find courses on Scrum and Kanban and lots of useful materials to download. Okay, let's clarify why the presentation and the release of the increment are not the primary goals of the sprint review. Let's start with the presentation. Many people imagine the sprint review to simply be a presentation for the stakeholders, and after having received the presentation, the event is over and everybody walks away. The Scrum Guide says the sprint review is a working session and the Scrum team should avoid limiting it to a presentation. In other words, yes, something will be presented, but there's much more. Then we come to the second point, the release. The Scrum Guide says the sprint review should never be considered a gate to releasing value. So the sprint review is not a release gate. You don't have to wait until the end of a sprint to release something. It can always be released and increment whenever something meets the definition of done. But what is the sprint review for then, if it's not mainly for the presentation and the release? Looking at the participants gives us a better understanding. The sprint review is the only event in which the stakeholders are necessarily involved, so you should not miss out on this great opportunity to be in touch with them. In addition to presenting the increment, you can also discuss the following questions. What do the stakeholders like or dislike? What is their feedback regarding the increment? How has the environment changed? What consequences does this change have on our product? How can we create even more value for our customers? What opportunities are there in terms of market and technology? How can these be used or implemented? Based on the answers to these questions, the product backlog can be adjusted. In summary, the sprint review is a workshop, not a committee meeting.